It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we have to always be extraordinary. But somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money, because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood, but always stand out and always be grateful. But never forget that the system is rigged, so find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us.
Have you ever stopped to think about how the media shapes the way we see gender? From childhood, we are bombarded with messages that tell us what it means to be a man or a woman. But who decides these roles? And why does the media, an industry meant to entertain, often reinforce inequality and violence? In this presentation, we will explore how the media not only reflects society's gender biases but also reinforces them. We will analyze how media violence affects our perceptions of power, relationships, and even real-life behavior. Most importantly, we will discuss what we can do to change the narrative. With globalization, the impact of media extends far beyond national borders. Hollywood action films, South Korean dramas, and viral TikTok trends all contribute to shaping gender expectations worldwide. This means that gender stereotypes and media violence are not just local issues, they are global concerns. As media content spreads faster than ever, so does its influence on how we view gender roles and violence. But the golden question is, why does this matter? It's simple, because media is not just entertainment, but it shapes our thoughts, our culture, and our reality. If we want a future of true gender equality, we must first understand the messages we consume and demand better representation. So let's dive deeper into this issue and uncover the truth behind gender inequality and media violence.
Chances are many of us imagine a man as CEO or engineer, while the nurse and the scientist probably a woman. But why? Were we taught these roles directly? Not really. Instead, we absorb them through school, through the workplace, and most of all, through the media we consume. Gender inequality is not just something that happens in one country. And thanks to globalization, the way we view gender is shaped by, not by our culture, but by cultures around the world. The movies we watch, the music we listen to, the trends we follow, this all influence what we believe about gender roles. Think about the media we consume every day. Hollywood movies often portray men as the heroes and women as their sidekicks. In the Philippines, teleseries reinforce the idea of the mahinhin or demure woman and the matapang or strong man. Korean dramas show a similar pattern where women are caregivers and men as leaders. Because these shows are streamed worldwide, they shape perceptions not just in one country but across many. And in Disney princesses, For years, they taught young girls that their biggest goal in life was love and marriage. Even in advertisements, it's precise that men in suits selling cars, women in kitchens selling household products, and it's everywhere. Now, let's focus on leadership. The Philippines has two prominent female leaders in recent years, Leni Robredo and Sara Duterte. Two different women, two different leadership styles, but what do they have in common? They were both judged differently than their male counterparts. Leni Robredo, former vice president, was often dismissed as weak. Why? Because she did not fit the traditional image of a strong, aggressive leader. Even when she actively worked in disaster relief, led pandemic efforts, and represented the Philippines globally, she was still questioned. On the other hand, when Sara Duterte, known for her strong and tough image, took office, she was often compared to his father, as if a woman can't be her own leader without being linked to a man. Meanwhile, male politicians with less visible contributions were rarely subjected to the same scrutiny. This is not just in Philippines. In US, Hillary Clinton was called too cold and too ambitious. Meanwhile, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand was asked in interviews how she balanced being a mother and a prime minister. Will the male leader ever be asked that? Probably not. Globalization spreads these gendered expectations. Political campaigns worldwide are influenced by social media trends, international media coverage, and public perception shaped by global news. The way we view female leaders in the Philippines is not just a reflection of our culture, it's also shaped by how the world portrays women in power.
That she was paid less than her male co-stars. She wrote about it, saying if she were honest with herself, it was partly because she had fallen into a trap women face, not wanting to be difficult or spoiled, while men don't care.
My question.
But gender inequality doesn't stop at movies and politics. It affects real lives too. Let's talk about work. Even in 2025, the gender pay gap remains a global issue. Around the world, women earn less than men for the same jobs. And it's not just about salaries. Leadership positions still mostly male. Boardrooms, government offices, tech industries, women are still underrepresented. And men face their own struggles too. In many countries, men would choose traditionally feminine jobs, which is nursing, teaching, caregiving, are questioned. Why will the man want the job? Because of outdated gender expectations, many men feel pressured into roles they don't even want. Now, let's talk about something deeper, the way these gender roles affect how we see ourselves. If young girls grow up watching women in weak, passive roles, they may believe they should stay in their place. If boys are raised hearing men don't cry, they may struggle with emotions for the rest of their lives. And globalization spread these messages faster than ever. Social media, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, what's trending in one country quickly influences another. Sometimes this is a good thing, helping us challenge outdated norms. But often it just reinforces old biases on a global scale.
Now let's discuss a topic that has been going on for decades: media violence. Specifically, we'll explore what media violence is, its prevalence in various forms of entertainment, and why it is a concern, particularly for children. Media violence refers to the portrayal of aggressive or violent acts within various forms of media, including video games, films, social media, and news broadcasts. This violence can involve physical harm, verbal aggression, or psychological harm. Some examples include video games like Grand Theft Auto, where players engage in violent actions like car chases and shootings. Countless films and TV shows may include gunfights and physical fights, social media content that may involve cyberbullying, or the glorification of harmful behavior and pranks, and the news broadcasts that show real-life violence such as war footage or criminal acts. Statistics show that the average American child sees about 200,000 acts of violence on television alone by the time they reach 18 years old. Studies done also indicate that violent video games are regularly played by both adolescent boys and girls. 97% of youth ages 12 to 17 played some type of video game, and that 2/3 of them played action and adventure games that tend to contain violent content. Even song lyrics nowadays may contain violent or aggressive themes, such as gang violence, weapons, or emotional abuse. For instance, some rap or rock songs may promote criminal behavior or portray violent relationships. So why should we be concerned about this? One of the biggest issues is the psychological impact on viewers, especially children. Research has shown that exposure to violent media can have negative effects on both children and adolescents, including aggressive behavior, fear and anxiety, and impaired empathy. Albert Bandura, a psychologist, found that children learn by imitating adults. Studies showed that kids who watch adults acting aggressively were more likely to behave aggressively themselves. Research revealed that preschoolers exposed to violent cartoons, some of which may appear harmless, were more likely to hit playmates and disobey teachers than those who watch non-violent shows. Media violence can also lead to fear. Children may experience anxiety or trauma after seeing violent content. Remember the film Wrong Turn? Did it make you feel uneasy about hiking in the woods afterwards? And lastly, children who may witness a lot of media violence may become desensitized, meaning they are less shocked by violence, less sensitive to others' suffering, and less empathetic toward victims. Media violence is a widespread issue that affects individuals of all ages, especially in today's world as technology continues to arise. Whether through video games, movies, social media, news outlets, or even songs, violent content is ever present in our media landscape. The psychological impacts ranging from increased aggression to desensitization make it a growing concern. As we continue to consume media in various forms, it is important to be aware of these effects and consider how they shape our perceptions and behavior. To reduce the negative effects, we all need to work together. Parents, teachers, creators, and policymakers. By being more aware of the media we consume and create, we can help promote kindness and empathy over violence and aggression.
Okay, so now moving on, I will be discussing the intersection of gender inequality and media violence, with how these two issues are connected and how they affect the way we see gender roles in the society. Let's start with how media violence reinforces gender stereotypes. In many films, TV shows, and even video games, there is a pattern that we often see. And that is, women are portrayed as victims while men are shown as aggressors. For example, action movies often have male characters using violence to solve problems or prove their strength, while female characters are frequently shown as helpless or needing to be saved. This reinforces the idea that men are naturally dominant and aggressive, while women are weak and dependent. Another issue is the over-sexualization of women in violent media. Many female characters in movies, TV shows, and video games are not only portrayed as victims, but are also dressed and presented in ways that focus on their physical appearance rather than their personality or skills. This can send the harmful message that a woman's value lies in her looks, even in violent or dangerous situations. Furthermore, media violence can normalize toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is the belief that being manly means being tough, aggressive, and emotionless. While young boys constantly say male characters who uses violence to express power and control, they may start to believe that this is how they should behave in real life. This can contribute to a culture where aggressive male behavior is accepted or even encouraged, which is wrong. Now, connecting this to our topic, starting with globalization. Globalization plays a huge role in spreading media content across the world. Violent movies, TV shows, and video games produced in one country can quickly reach global audiences. Unfortunately, this also means that the gender stereotypes and toxic portrayals of masculinity and femininity in these media forms get exported and consumed worldwide. As a result, harmful ideas about men being aggressive and women being weak or over-sexualized become reinforced across different cultures. However, on the other hand, localization adds another layer to this. While global media spreads these violent and gendered narratives, local cultures sometimes adapt or even reshape them. For instance, a violent movie from one country might be modified to fit the cultural values of another, but the core stereotypes about gender roles often remain. In some cases, local media might even amplify these stereotypes to cater to specific cultural preferences, further normalizing toxic masculinity and the victimization of women. For example, here in the Philippines, since it's localization, local action movies and teleseries often follow similar gender stereotypes seen in Hollywood, but with a Filipino twist. For example, we all know the FPJ's Ang Provinciana features tough, justice-seeking male protagonist who constantly engages in violent actions to defeat criminals. Female characters in the show are often portrayed as love interests, victims, or supporters of the male hero. While the setting, the language, and cultural elements are localized, the core gender portrayals, aggressive male hero and passive female characters remain, reinforcing traditional gender roles in the Filipino media.
Moving on, I'll be discussing the impact of gender inequality on society and individuals. This issue affects people of all genders, shaping their experiences, behaviors, and even their self-perception. Let's take a closer look at how it influences women, men, and society as a whole. Firstly, gender inequality has a profound effect on women and girls. One significant impact is the fear and restrictions on freedom. Many women and girls feel unsafe in public spaces, which limits their ability to participate fully in society. This fear often leads to self-imposed restrictions, such as avoiding certain areas or activities, especially at night. Another serious consequence is lower self-esteem due to objectification.
I wish I had straight hair.
Blonde hair would be nice.
I would love to have freckles. They can make people just look really cute. I wish I was taller.
I wish I was shorter. I'm very tall for my age and I feel really lanky and really tall and awkward.
I wish I was thinner.
I wish I was stronger to play more sports and be involved in more things.
I would like to have lighter skin. It looks, well, oh my god, this is so difficult, I'm sorry.
I would like to have darker skin. I have really pale skin, so it'll stick out.
Sometimes I wish I had blue eyes. Blue eyes would be nice.
I'd like to have smaller breasts. I was the first girl in my class to get a bra. Just kind of want to fit in.
I think that I'd like to have curly hair.
I wish I had straight hair.
When women and girls are constantly judged by their appearance, it can harm their confidence and sense of self-worth. This objectification not only affects how they see themselves, but also how others treat them. Gender inequality also affects men and boys. One major impact is the pressure to conform to aggressive masculinity.
Pick it up with your big strong muscles and bring it over here to the shop.
Boys can be loving.
There you go. Fast.
I need you to be brave, okay? Gotta go.
Boys can be shy. Boys can be sad.
Why are you crying?
Boys don't cry, right, honey? Be a big boy, please.
Boys can be self-conscious. Boys can be intelligent.
Why is it always about using
But boys can't be afraid. Boys can't be gentle.
I don't understand what the big deal is. I mean, isn't this just boys being boys?
Boys can't be weak. Boys can't be timid. Boys can't be hurt. Boys can't look soft. Boys can't be powerless.
Society often expects men to be strong, dominant, and unemotional. These rigid expectations can limit their ability to express vulnerability or seek help when needed. In addition, there is the issue of emotional suppression. From a young age, many boys are taught to hide their feelings, which can lead to difficulties in forming healthy relationships and managing stress. This emotional suppression can have long-term effects on their mental health and well-being. The consequences of gender inequality extend beyond individuals to society as a whole. One of the most serious outcomes is gender-based violence. Harmful gender norms can normalize abusive behavior, leading to increased violence against women as well as the other marginalized groups. Finally, gender inequality reinforces harmful cultural norms. These norms maintain unequal power dynamics and limit opportunities for people based on their gender. Breaking this pattern is essential to creating a fair and just society where everyone can thrive. In conclusion, gender inequality impacts women, men, and society in profound ways. By recognizing these effects, we can work toward creating a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their gender.
Media is everywhere.
Movies, TV shows, video games, and social media.
But have you noticed how men and women are often portrayed? Women are usually shown as weak or over-sexualized, while men are expected to be tough and aggressive. These reinforces gender inequality and normalizes violence. So, how can we change this? Let's talk about media and audience responsibilities and policies that can help. Media companies have a big influence on how we see the world. When they continue to show women as helpless victims and men as violent, it affects how people think and behave. Instead, they should create a more balanced stories, where women are strong and independent and men are emotionally open and respectful. For example, movies like Moana and Black Panther show both men and women in powerful and positive roles. Media should also reduce the amount of gendered violence shown, especially when it makes violence look normal or acceptable. But media alone won't change. We, as viewers, also have a role. Instead of just watching anything, we should ask ourselves, does this show promote harmful stereotypes? Or is this game glorifying violence? We can support positive content by watching and recommending shows that promote equality. For example, instead of supporting a game where women are treated as background objects, we can play ones with strong female leads. If we demand better media, companies will start creating better stories. Governments and organizations also play an important role. There should be guidelines that encourage fair representation of men and women and reduce excessive violence in media. At the same time, we need more diversity in media production. More women and underrepresented voices behind the camera as writers, directors, and producers. With the right policies, we can make sure the media promotes fairness and not discrimination. Media has the power to shape the way we see gender and violence, but change starts with us. Media companies should create fair and diverse content. Audiences should be more critical of what they watch. Policymakers should push for fair representation in media. When we work together, we can create a world where men and women are treated equally, both in media and in real life.
Now that we're done discussing about gender inequality and media violence, let us take a quick step back. We've unpacked the undeniable link between gender inequality and media violence. The media, in all its forms, like movies, televisions, video games, advertisements, and even social media, plays a powerful role in shaping our perceptions of gender. When violent narratives are repeatedly shown, they normalize aggression and desensitize audiences to real-world harm. And let's not forget the impact on young minds. Children who grow up consuming media filled with gender stereotypes and violence may internalize these ideas, carrying them into adulthood. This creates a cycle where gender inequality and media violence doesn't just remain in fiction but become embedded in reality. Now let's imagine a world where women are not just background characters of their own stories, where men are not confined to outdated notions of toughness and aggression, and where violence is not glorified but condemned. Sounds great, right? That world isn't just a fantasy. It's a possibility, but it requires action, awareness, and accountability. We can change the narrative from media producers, policymakers, educators, and most importantly, us consumers. Every time we choose what to play, watch, or support, we're shaping the future of media. We can be passive consumers or active participants in demanding change. So, ask yourself, does this content challenges stereotypes or reinforces them? Does this
glorify violence, or promotes respect? Or does this provide fair representation for all genders? The choice is always ours. Do we sit back and let media dictate the story? Or do we take control and create a future where everyone is represented fairly? Every click, every share, every discussion we have about this matters. So let's be the change, because a better future starts now, and it starts with us.